What is up, YouTube? My name is Brady and I'm the BlurryKnight, and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've shown my face on camera on the channel, since you're most likely used to hearing my voice in interviews. But something happened this past weekend that I wanted to share. So this past weekend was the South by Southwest Festival, and I was actually invited to participate in a press junket for the upcoming Halo TV series. So Paramount actually sent me an invitation to take part in a roundtable where we were able to speak to some of the cast and creative on the show, and that included Kane and Kiki Wolfkill, who were the executive producers on the show. And then we also spoke to Jeren Hart, Jen Taylor, and Pablo Schreiber, who are Quan, Cortana, and Master Chief respectively. There was a bunch of other press and creators, and of course myself, and you'll hear us take turns asking questions over the course of 3 interviews. I'm going to release the interviews in 3 parts because I feel like if I do all in one video, people are going to get bored. So without further ado, here is the first interview, which is with Kane and Kiki Wolfkill. Thank you again to Paramount for the opportunity, and I hope you enjoy.
Hi, thanks so much. It's Gabe Sigler from Bad Feeling Magazine in Montreal. I love the first 2 episodes of the show. Great to speak to you both. Question for Stephen. I was wondering if you could describe the process of merging the established mythos that players know from the games with new elements that you wanted to introduce in the series.
Well, first, doing the show gives you a chance to tell a 9-episode season. You had a chance to do a lot of world building. So we got a chance to show canonical parts of the galaxy that maybe didn't get much play in the games or in the other books, like the Rubble or Madrigal. And then building off of that, it was a constant feedback loop with 343, where either I would dig deep into the canon to find unfleshed out areas that we could go deeper into or bring out characters, or I could invent new characters and make sure that I incorporate them into the Halo ethos in a way that they feel like they've always been there.
Thank you.
I'll keep this intro short.
Najir?
Hello, Najir Chambers, Big Gold Belt Media. And my question is for Kiki. In recent interviews, you did mention that the helmet would come off. And with this being such a big, iconic, legendary moment, one could say, I was surprised that the buildup of it was pretty short. You kind of ripped the Band-Aid off pretty fast. And I wanted, excuse me, to know, what was this decision to execute this in this fashion, knowing this is potentially one of the greatest mysteries of the franchise?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting balance, because for some people it was a moment 20 years in the making. For others, it was a moment that they felt like they didn't ever want to have happen, right? And I think, the decision to take off the helmet was really driven by the story and our desire to tell this character story, and to be able to tell the story of Master Chief, but also to be able to tell the story of John and the person inside the helmet. And so in order to really get to that story and start to get into John's character journey, it felt important for him to come out of the helmet, and it made sense to do it in episode 1. It was also important that he do it within the context of the story for a reason, right? It's such an impactful moment for the helmet to come off, and you wanted it to really be motivated by something that John wanted to do. And that was a moment where he was building trust with Quan. That was a moment where he needed to leave himself physically vulnerable in order to build that trust and to sort of reinforce his intent with her. And so that was, again, story always guides these decisions and what is the right thing for the story. And as it happens, it was in episode 1.
Thank you.
Brady.
Hi there, Brady Reiters from BlurryKnight in Cape Town, South Africa. Good evening. Kiki, you've been involved with Halo 4 and currently oversee its transmedia. Is there anything in particular that you enjoyed about this adaptation?
Oh my gosh, there is so much. I mean, it's a dream come true to be able to bring a universe that you've been so steeped in for so long and have been thinking about storytelling in so many different mediums, to have the opportunity to really bring the universe to life at this scope and the scale and with the level of ambition and detail that we have, but also to have the opportunity to have 9 hours to tell this character story, right? Video games are such an interesting medium for narrative, and our games have a particular narrative structure based on being first person. And so you have the opportunity with the series to really tell a different kind of story with the Master Chief and with John and with Cortana and Halsey, and explore relationships and dynamics in a way that's hard to do in the game is in the same way. And so that was both incredibly daunting, but more than anything, incredibly exciting from a creative perspective, and also, frankly, just from a fan perspective.
Thank you.
Kate? Hi. My question is really coming from a place as a longtime Halo fan. And it is, we've seen Halo come to different mediums, but also often without Master Chief. So why now? Why was Master Chief chosen to be the focus of the live action series?
I mean, I think that, even going back to Halo 4, and we've explored the Master Chief and John in novels in different ways, but going back to Halo 4 and the story there of Chief and Cortana, and Chief really starting to sort of question, his place and how much agency he really had in the world. I think that really sort of excited us about spending the time to tell this Chief story and see him in a different way. The challenge of that, of course, being not impeding on everyone's personal story of Chief, especially with the helmet coming off. So I think the way that we looked at it was, how do we tell this amazing character story of a character we all care about and has such an interesting story, right? Which we read about in the books. So how do we do that? Let players preserve their version of Chief, but also ask them to kind of come along with us for the ride as we tell this one particular story of Chief.
Thank
Frederick?
you.
Frederick?
Hi, Frederick Nudie here for Choice Cut Media. Glad to be here with you guys. My question can go for either one of you guys, but what was the number one thing with people coming into the franchise or newcomers coming to the franchise to get out of the new series?
Well, I think it's the hope is that if you have no previous knowledge of the franchise, you can come into this and just have a great ride and enjoy this show and actually get welcomed into the Halo universe and want to dig even more deeply into it. It's, first and foremost, it's meant to be a great ride, a great story about human beings, and the themes are universal, about hope and humanity and awe and wonder, and taking you to big new worlds you haven't seen. That's what sci-fi gives us the opportunity to do. So my hope is that if you have no knowledge of Halo, it's a great, fun show to watch. And if you are a deep aficionado of Halo, there's plenty of rewards for you as well, because we did it with you in mind.
Loop?
Hi, it's Lupe Haas with Cinemovie. Well, congratulations on the show. As a person who didn't play the game, I'm really into it. And I wanted to know, so there's a lot of revelations when I was doing my research. There are a lot of revelations you're letting out, like that we unmask Master Chief, and also that's a little bit different than the game. So why did you want to put those feelers out? So that, do you want to temper kind of the backlash?
Well, I mean, I think what we want is for people to come into the story and really be able to sit back and enjoy the story, right? And part of it's also respect for how strong a feeling people have about some of these things. And it was the right thing for this show, for this story, for the helmet to come off, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a difficult decision. And I think, one of the things that's amazing about the Halo community is they're incredibly diverse, and there's a million opinions, and it's very hard to do anything that will please everyone. But my hope is that fans who may not agree with every decision will at least respect why we did it, and as the series plays out, sort of understand why those decisions get made. And so I think being upfront about some of those things that we know are controversial is important, so we can have that conversation. But again, with the hope that as the story and the season plays out, the reason why, because there was never a change for the sake of change, the reason why we made those decisions will become very clear in supporting the story.
And our last question will be Kleps.
Hi, Klep. We are critics.com. And my question is, when adapting this game to a series, what was the most important element that you wanted to shine through? This question is for either or, but I want to start with Kiki.
Yeah, I would say the very most important thing, and this is true of any experience that we build in Halo, you know, we call them the Halo beliefs, which is those very, very universal themes of hope and heroism and humanity, you know, the idea that humanity is something worth saving, the idea that there can be a hero inside any of us, and that like wonder and mystery of a sci-fi universe that has to imbue every single thing that we do, because that really is core to Halo, and telling these human relatable stories against this crazy action sci-fi backdrop with humanity at stake. That is required no matter what we do.